All right, guys. So we are going to go ahead and jump right on into the industry top news of what's going on and just get right to it. Um, so the first story or first kind of topic I want to bring up so we can discuss is kind of the coronavirus and how recently, according to Variety, that production for a lot of Hollywood movies as well as series and TV shows are going to be will be on hiatus until mid-January. Um, yeah, due to COVID in California. So I wanted to talk about this story and get your opinion on it, Brittany, about kind of your thoughts on the coronavirus and how it's affected, the movie industry, production. My heart personally goes out to all the people who are freelancers and working in the industry in LA, because I would not want to be doing this and going through this right now, because you have to decide between your health and your paycheck at the moment. You know what I'm saying? And as a freelancer working in the industry, and have worked in the industry before, we understand like unemployment benefits are non-existent. I think currently you get that, some people, but people have been having a hard time getting that. So I know a lot of people are probably wanting to go back to work because you have to make a living. But what are your thoughts on that, Brittany?
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't just affect those in Hollywood. I think it's across the country, right? Because even in DC, my full-time job, I work with freelancers. My job is video production. And so a lot of our shoots have halted. We've had to make a lot of shifts to virtual remote productions and just find creative ways to tell stories. So it's not just, in LA, but I know since this has happened, the industry and the guilds have been doing a lot of work on getting COVID compliance officers. Like there is courses that you can take to become a COVID compliance specialist on sets. And that's your whole job, is to make sure that, people are in compliance with whatever the city is, whatever the CDC recommendation are. So making sure equipments are wiped down, making sure there are designated areas for people to have break, making sure that you're 6 feet apart from equipment to talent, doing regular testing. So I know that there are a lot of policies and standards and procedures, Hollywood is putting into place to circumvent like an outbreak on set. But it's still hard. And I think even with that, they're still having to come up with creative ways to do shoots, right? So you scale down your crew, you scale down the people who can be on set. And it's just a lot leaner. I've seen a lot of storylines in which people are talking virtually, like FaceTime, you know? So you just kind of get creative. I don't know. They're going to have to continue to do that because we're going to experience this, at least in my opinion, to the summer. That's what everyone is saying. Maybe even to the fall. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot of people's pocketbooks that are being hurt, though, for sure.
That is for sure. I mean, even with the movie industry itself, that was something else I wanted to talk about, kind of how I saw another article Variety published about how will the movie industry come back, and if we do come back, what would that look like? And I know like the AMC, they need a bailout of like, I believe 125 million or $1 billion in order for the AMC just to come back. And that's even if they will. So we've talked about this before, but I have always been okay with not.
You have. And when it came out, I said, you know what? This Antoinette has been championing for this for a long time. And I was always the one like, no, that's not going to happen. We don't need to do it. People want to go to the movies. And look, we're forced to be at home.
Right. It's just like, had they done this, had they practiced this before, we would not have this issue. You would have already had the procedures in check. People will be comfortable with kind of watching movies at home. Had they just listened to me in the beginning, like listen to your girl.
Listen to you in the beginning.
Thank you. That's all you have to do is just listen. Listen to black women. um, yeah. So But no, on another note, something that I just saw recently is that Roku just acquired all of Quibi's library. Now,
Wasn't that a huge disappointment? It's like it came and it went, and it seemed like, this time quarantine was going to be the perfect time for Quibi to shine because people were going to be at home. But I also think maybe that was the reason why it didn't shine, was because the content was so short. It was like 15 minutes, right? People are at home, they're looking for longer form content. I don't know. I'm just disappointed.
I disappointed. I'm not. I mean, I kind of saw this. It's not surprising to me that this completely failed, honestly, only because I did not see a lot of promo for this. Like, there wasn't a big push for it as far as in the digital space. I didn't see that. So because I didn't see that in the digital space, I said I don't know how this is going to work. And when it failed, I was like, okay, yeah, I could see that. And
But they did. I mean, they had all these big names tied to it. Like Kevin Hart was supposed to have a show, and some other folks I can't remember at the time. But they had like big talent
right, but
creating.
but the thing is, celebrity doesn't matter anymore because digitally YouTubers are the people who people are the influencers or the ones that people gravitate towards to or to get suggestions from. Me personally, I've watched so much YouTube that I don't even watch other networks or anything. Majority of my time is spent watching YouTube videos all day, and that's where I get most of my just content from. And it's not on these other apps. I will switch on HBO Max or maybe Netflix when a movie comes out, but I'm not surfing them all day the way I am YouTube.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I thought it was really interesting that Roku acquired their library to be able to kind of do that, to do their content, and they're going to make content available via their Roku ad support. So that's how they're going to get their revenue in that way. So I
Well,
thought,
let me tell you one thing that ain't gonna go away are these ads.
right, that
It
is
ain't going away.
all right, guys. So next up is our girl Ava DuVernay. Again, this report comes also from the Hollywood. I mean, no, Variety, and her and Peter Roth launched a tech platform to connect overlooked talent with hiring managers in Hollywood. So Ava DuVernay and Peter teamed up, who is the chairman of Warner Brother Television, to launch Array Crew. So this will be a diverse database to highlight below the line talent in Hollywood. The platform's purpose will be to solve Hollywood's diversity problem by providing a platform that will allow studios to women and people of color in the entertainment industry. Some networks that are currently signed up or ready and geared to use this platform is Sony, Netflix, and Disney are just a few that are invested in the project. So I thought this was pretty cool of them to do. It's called Array Crew again, and actually, if you go to the website Array Crew right now, they kind of have a launch coming soon for it, and the platform, it looks like Staff Me Up or any other kind of production hub to find jobs and things like that. So I think it's going to be similar to that. What are your thoughts on this, Brittany, and what do you think?
I think that's really cool. I mean, of course, we know everybody's championing for diversity at this moment. And what that looks like is getting diverse above the line crew members. So, like directors, producers, actors, but the below the line crew members, like grips, production managers, art directors, first assistant directors, people like that, they're not necessarily getting that shine or getting those opportunities. So a database or a production hub for them to find jobs, for companies to find them, I think that's very cool. Especially because like Staff Me Up or Production Hub or Media Match and all these other sites that you can put your resume on or find opportunities, you could kind of get filtered out, and if someone is not looking for you specifically, then that's a lot of people of color. So I'm all for that. She's always championed for us to be in front and behind the scenes. So kudos to her. I love it.
I love it too. You made some amazing points with that as well, and I love it, due to the fact that again, this is another database for people in the production industry to be able to use. Um, and I just think that's really dope. I lost my train of thought about exactly what I was going to say, but yeah. But yeah, kudos to you, Ava DuVernay, for doing this, and stepping out to be able to provide this. Oh, this is what I was going to say, is that there's no more of this excuse that we don't know. We don't know of any people of color to be able to hire in the industry. Now you have a specific database for people of color for you to go through and to, hire them for your different productions and things like that. I mean, I don't know about your experience, but I know whenever I signed up for any of these little hubs, I would always get PA job offers. Like, I would never get producer, associate producer, anything of that nature. So hopefully this will help other people to level up and to move up in their careers when they're using this platform, because that was something that I had an issue with, working, when I was freelancing as in the DC area.
Yeah, I think this would be a great startup for people. I mean, usually below the line crew members tag along with a producer or a director. Like, you just get in, you flow with them. They like how you work, and then they bring you on to every production that they do. But this will be good for those who are just starting, just looking to start, or who are still like gigging it from gig to gig, without having those connections. And it should work well because there are big names tied to this. There are big names vouching for these people. And I'm pretty sure they have a good vetting process to get quality below the line crew members. So, yeah.
It's very dope. Very, very dope. The last story that I wanted to kind of talk about, and it's going to move on to our next segment also, is Deadline's. They listed the 21 most influential films of the 21st century so far. So I found this to be very interesting because the three films, they had a list of other films, but the three films that had a majority or main cast was African American, Black, was the 2018 Black Panther, 2017 Get Out, and 2016 Moonlight. I would have to agree with this list as far as the most influential, just because of the nature of the three films and kind of the different particular background, the stories, and how it's pushing. So we have sci-fi, we have the LGBT kind of story, coming of age story, and then we have Get Out, which is kind of a little based. Well, I think it's like a real story, but it does have yeah, exactly. It has some elements there, but yeah. So a horror. It's considered a horror film. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. What are your thoughts about this list, Brittany? Yeah.
I thought the list was interesting only because we watch TV, or film. We watch film, and I feel like there are a lot of other films
Right.
that could have made this list. But when you think about like having major impact as far as being able to allow smaller projects to be greenlit, that had huge box office success, that had commercial success, yes, I would go with that because they were influential in kind of showing that like Black people can tell these diverse stories, and that they look good, and that they can do well, make money. So yeah, okay. I agree with that. I agree with the list.
Right. And so moving on to kind of the next segment, which you tapped on, is kind of so what other films, in your opinion, do you think should have been on the list?
Ooh. What other films that? Well, I don't know. I guess so. When they say influential, what makes it influential?
I mean, in my opinion, influential would be something that a how I see it is more so a story that either has not been told or that perspective has not been seen in has not been seen in, or will push, like, is a new narrative that will be able to push something forward, like you said. The Black Panther being able to come out, I feel like there'll be a lot more sci-fi movies with Black main characters that will be greenlit because Black Panther was such a phenomenon and such a huge movie. Get Out, other horror films, Black horror films will be able to be created because that film did so well. Moonlight, other LGBT movies will be able to be greenlight because they understand that this is something that can sell and is a beautiful film. And it's pushing the culture forward. Things like that, in my opinion, is what.
Yeah, I mean, we're still so early into the 21st century, right? So it's kind of hard for me to be like, well, no, this should have been on there. So I'm in agreement based on that standard of what influential means. That those are probably the three key ones. I don't even know if I would have put Moonlight in that because it was such an indie film, and even it was a beautiful film, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I'm a Barry Jenkins fan, but I don't know if it didn't win Best Picture, if that would have been on a contender. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if it had that much of an influence. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think just visually, that movie did it. I think when they say influence, as far as that particular film, maybe the visual appeal to it kind of was the most influential as far as that's concerned. I think in that aspect of it. Yeah, I agree.
Are there films on there that you feel like should be on this list that aren't?
It's funny because I looked into it a little bit, and so what I realized about my list that I kind of put together is that a lot of them are coming of age stories about young women, and a lot of them has to do with the youth is what I feel that should have been on the list. So one is Pariah, which was a 2011 coming of age story about a young lesbian woman. Love that film. I would love to watch it again. Every time I see it, it's just all over again. It's just such a beautiful film itself. Another one is Girlhood, which was a 2014 French film. I loved it. And the reason why let me go back to Pariah. The reason why I picked that film is because it was a coming of age story about a lesbian woman. And I think that is a story that I have not been told before. The only other time that I've really seen a Black female lesbian playing in a role was when I saw Lena Waithe in the Netflix film Master of None. Master of None. Yeah, and I saw her character, and I was fascinated by Lena Waithe because I had never seen that person or a woman like that on the screen before, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, wow, I just was hooked. And so it just reminded me of that we need to see more of that. And then the film Girlhood is, like I said, a 2014 French film, and that was a coming of age story. And again, it was a French film that had the heavily French. I can't remember whether it was subtitles or not, but I love that film because I felt that we're starting to open up the United States to international films and people being more comfortable with watching films from other countries. And even if it does have subtitles, that you will read the subtitles because it's actually a great film itself. It doesn't have to be based in the American English language in order for it to be, accepted by the culture. So I thought that was great. Roxanne was another one that I thought was pretty dope.
Yeah, but when these are all great movies, and that's why I'm saying they're dope movies. But when we're talking about influential, are they on the level for being influential based on industry standards? I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't say more so about the film itself. I think just more so the context of the subject.
I'm interested to see what the white films are that were influential. Because then I can compare, I feel like.
Let me pull up, let me name a couple of them. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, Joker was one.
Yes, I would agree.
Absolutely. Parasite was another.
Okay, yes. And that's a foreign film,
Exactly.
minority, person of color.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I didn't watch that one.
Eh, I mean, what was influential about that?
I don't.
Seen it because it did get a lot of hoopla, but
I remember hearing about it, but I didn't. I still didn't watch it. The Shape of Water. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mad Max, Fury Road.
oh, really? Okay, that must have been really good. I'm not like a action. I haven't seen the first Mad Max, so no, that wouldn't be for me.
And another one is The Social Network. So I think like The Social Network got in there because it's more so about the digital age and kind of the story of that whole the background to that, the underlying of that. So yeah, I don't.
I'm seeing Avatar, Slumdog Millionaire, The Hurt Locker, Iron Man. Yeah, I agree with this list. These are influential. Um, yeah, so if I'm looking at these big names on here, I mean, I agree with this list. I ain't mad at it, and I'm not mad at the three black names on here because there are also other minorities or person of color films on here, so it's not a bad list.
No, not at all. It's not a bad list, but yeah. So that's the only thing I thought that was missing was more so of a for the black within the black spectrum of it. It's just more so the black coming of age story for women, and then the other two films that I liked a lot were Dope and See You Yesterday. And the only reason why those two really stuck out for me is that it was the story of the black quote unquote nerd. It was a story of, education being cool, technology being cool, kids embracing that. And there's no longer the narrative of, the struggling black kid in the ghetto. We have evolved into other aspects of life and we're normalized. So that's why I like those two films. And so I thought those two will hopefully push the culture forward to have more films seen like that and have black characters or black subjects seen in a normal light now. So
I agree. And like you said, a lot of your films are coming of age stories, which are my personal favorite stories to look at. So yeah.
yeah, so I thought it was funny because when I did the list, I'm like, wait a minute, all these are coming of age stories. They all have a common thread interest. But yeah, so that's my so that's that.